or sponsors. Are you a family caregiver? Are you caregiving for someone who can no longer take care of themselves? Are you overwhelmed? This is Caregiver Solutions Info with Marcia Teele. Marcia will be hosting an hour of true stories and information, tips and updates of the latest research and necessary information in the caregiving field, focusing on you, the family caregiver. An Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert, Marcia has 15 years of hands-on experience at Arden Courts, a leader in assisted living dementia communities here in the U.S. Marcia covers everything you need to know as a family caregiver, especially if you care for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease or other related dementia or chronic illness. If you have a friend or relative that is also a family caregiver, call them now. They won't want to miss a minute. And let them know they can watch on caregiversolutions.info. And they can listen on WNN 1470 AM in South Florida or nationally on the iHeartRadio app. Now, sit back, relax, and learn from our host, Marcia Teele, as she brings information to you that may just be the caregiving solution you need.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Caregiver Solution Info Show. I'm glad that you could join us today. I hope you're staying safe and sane during this pandemic while we're social distancing and sheltering in place. There's been a lot of news lately, both local and national, about families that are very concerned, and rightly so, about their loved ones who may be living in an assisted living facility, a memory care community, or a nursing home. And they're worried, and they should be, and they're not getting information. And I think that might be the worst thing, is not knowing. So today we're going to be featuring a company who has been leading the way during this pandemic as far as being communicative to their customers and keeping their residents safe. So joining me today is Mark McBride, and he's joining me from his home office in the Tampa area. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Marcia.
Welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. I wanted to let everybody know that you are the Vice President and General Manager of ProMedica Senior Care Division, and you are actually responsible for the operations of 55 senior care communities across 11 states, including the 51 Arden Courts Memory Care community. So that is a huge job, regardless of now having this pandemic to deal with. So I wanted to thank you for taking the time out of your busy, busy day and being here today to talk about what your company is doing to help not only the families to understand, but also the staff and the residents and keeping everybody safe. And that's what it's all about. So my first question to you is, how has the virus affected any of your 55 communities that you have operations concerns over?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Marcia. It really is a pleasure being on your show. We have a pretty large footprint being in 11 states, and some of our buildings are actually in the epicenter of the coronavirus. We have buildings in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and it certainly does impact us. And, we believe that being forthcoming, honest, and open with our families is the best way of communication. Here in Florida, we're very lucky. We have 11 communities in Florida, and we don't have any coronavirus residents or employees right now. But I can tell you, if we were to have a resident come down with coronavirus in any of our communities in Florida, what we would do is we would notify the family, first of all, of the inflicted or affected resident. And then we would also notify all of the families that have a loved one in our community and advise them that we do have an exposure.
That's great, because as you heard, families are so concerned, they're not getting information. You hear these stories every day on the news. They call the communities or the facilities, nobody's calling them back, nobody's reaching out. And I think it's awesome that the company that ProMedica, Arden Courts, part of the family of HCR Manor Care, you're reaching out and you're actually being proactive with this thing. So that being said, you must be doing a great job at preventing the spread. So many of the buildings do not have any kind of signs of virus inside the building with employees or with residents, what kind of things are the buildings doing to try to prevent the spread of the virus?
We are an ultra conservative company, and we always err on the side of safety for our residents. And so, back when coronavirus was still very foreign to people, we had already instituted safety precautions and measures well before the CDC made the recommendations to do so. So, we immediately began screening employees, we began screening visitors, we began screening potential residents who were going to move in, just to ensure that we were not unnecessarily introducing a potential hazard into our locations. And the one thing that I've always loved about the company I work for is, first and foremost, is do the right thing, and do the right thing by the resident. And so that's truly the motto in which we live by. And so these extra screening protocols that we have in place, along with, in the event that there is an exposure or even a positive case that is introduced into the community, we have tiers and measures that we immediately incorporate to ensure that not only our residents are safe, but also that our employees remain safe.
Well, I think that's great that you got ahead of it all. And I think being proactive really made a big difference and is making a difference. What specifically in the buildings are the employees, the staff doing as far as keeping germs away? I guess you've upped your cleaning measures and stepped up a lot of the things that you always did, but as you know, this is an invisible virus, so it's really hard. So what kind of things are you actually doing in the building? I can first of all attest that my temperature was taken when I visited several weeks ago, and they were very, very diligent about making sure everybody got their forehead done. And that was early on, like you said. What kind of extra measures are they doing to clean the building?
So cleanliness is obviously an important factor in preventing the spread of this. If we can kill the virus as the residual effects on any surfaces that we have in our locations, that is very key in prevention. So we have upped up our cleaning protocol. And the other thing that we have just recently found, or it was brought to my attention, is that there's this fogging device that uses this electrostatic technology, meaning like if you point a sprayer at a wheelchair, it's just going to spray the surface of the wheelchair. Well, when you use this particular device, it actually acts like a magnet and will wrap around the chair and the parts. And so I brought this to the attention of several individuals in our company, and we actually decided to purchase one of these devices for every single building because really, when it comes to cleanliness, we have to be very efficient about it. We have to be very quick about it. And we have to be very frequent about it. And so the more we clean, I think the better off we're going to be.
So speaking of cleaning and protection, the subject comes up about personal protection equipment, the PPE, and there's been a lot of talk from communities and buildings and hospitals and things like that that are running short or don't have enough. Have you had any problem obtaining adequate amounts of PPE for your staff?
Yes, that's a great question. That's a concern for many people. Fortunately, we have not had a problem obtaining PPE. We're very lucky to be part of a large healthcare system. ProMedica, has hospitals, skilled nursing facilities, home care hospice, rehab, insurance, you name it, they have it when it comes to healthcare. And having that extra muscle behind us really, I think, has helped us obtain the proper amounts of PPE that we need to, again, safely operate our communities. This is about prevention. This is about keeping our employees safe. This is about preventing our employees from bringing and introducing viruses to our residents.
Obviously, essential healthcare in people, doctors, nurses, hospice workers, need to come into the buildings to see the residents. Are there extra precautions that are taken before those types of people are allowed into the building near the residential areas?
Yeah, that's another great question. When you're looking at essential personnel or essential services, that is such a vague term. And what is actually essential for our locations. And so hospice is a great example of that. What we do know is that if we can minimize the number of visitors coming into the building, we can minimize the number of potential exposures we have. And so we do try to consciously limit the number of people coming in the buildings. With that said, services like hospice do provide a valuable service to our residents. And it's, especially when you're talking about end-of-life care, we want to ensure that our residents have every single need met. So there is a rigorous screening protocol that we go through. We obviously request that they send the same person routinely. And in some cases, in our communities where we have a large enough number of residents on that service, they will actually dedicate a person to our building where they are only servicing that particular location.
I think that's really smart, requesting the same people. When I did go into one of our buildings recently, they did ask me to fill out a questionnaire, and it was a long one, and it had questions about where have you been, and have you gone any trips, and have you been, out of the area, and have you been near anyone who had the virus symptoms. And they make everybody do that. And I think, again, as far as screening, that was really great. They asked me to go into the restroom in the lobby, wash my hands before I did anything, and then they asked me to wash my hands again before I left. So just in case there was something I maybe might have touched, again, I'm washing it off with good hand washing techniques before I even leave the building to prevent spread on the outside. I was very, very impressed with the protocol, and being an employee of the company, seeing that the company was doing all of this proactive with everybody, not just with visitors coming in that they don't know, but with people that they do know. And I think that's awesome.
Absolutely. Making it part of our culture, in a sense, is what we're doing. And if it's getting people to execute these measures, and that was a concern of mine initially, but it's very nice to see that everyone is getting screened. Even myself, when I go into a location, they are checking my temperature, and I'm very happy that they do it.
Yep, they're doing it on everybody, not just for show. So I applaud everyone out there, and applaud everybody in our buildings. We're going to take a quick break. So when we come back, we have more questions from Mark McBride, VP and General Manager of ProMedica Senior Care Division. We'll be right back.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
My guest today is Mark McBride, VP and General Manager of ProMedica Senior Care Division. And Mark, you are over 55 properties responsible for the operation, including all 51 Arden Courts memory care communities throughout our nation. So what do you think is going to happen going forward? How has this pandemic changed the way we do things? What is going to happen as a fallout, if you will, in the industry as a whole, or do you think it will just go back to normal?
I think a lot of us would like life to go back to normal. The reality of that happening, I think, is another story. I think this could really have a profound impact on the healthcare landscape. In particular, when you look at our Arden Courts communities, every Arden Courts has about 7 new competitors built every 3 years. So that's just a little over 2 every year. And Marcia, as a memory care advisor, that often when you're showing people our communities, people will come in and say, well, this one down the street is offering it for less money. And you'll say, well, how are they doing that? Because we know what it takes to provide good care. And so they're either shortchanging services, they're shortchanging staffing, or they're not prepared for a pandemic like this. And pandemics are expensive. PPE is not cheap. In areas where you have an outbreak, sometimes you're paying premium or higher wages for individuals that are actually going into those locations, and that is not cheap. And when you have some companies out there that are barely making it, this is going to have, I think, a profound impact going forward. I also think it's going to have a profound impact going forward on how we deliver healthcare in the future. States are going to look at ways of obviously preventing any exposure for residents. And, obviously issues like this often turn political. And so there's going to be a lot of attention, I think, around nursing homes. When you look at the number of cases, yeah, there are a lot of cases in nursing homes, but it's not the nursing home that's the common theme. It's population density, just like New York City, just like cruise ships, just like the military ship where we had over 95% of the soldiers test positive. So it's really a density issue that we're going to have to look at ways of better managing, I think.
You mentioned some new communities that are popping up all the time, especially memory care. Everybody wants to get on the memory care bandwagon lately because it's such a boon. And the problem with some of these problems with these new communities is that they are new and they don't have the census. So now they're not letting new people move in, a lot of them, and so they can't get the revenue from the families. And ones that do have residents that are living there, a lot of their families are out of jobs and they can't work to make the money to pay for their loved one to be in the memory care or the assisted living. So it's sort of a snowball effect, and it's affecting, like you said, the bottom line and the outcome of whether some of these companies can survive. And with ProMedica, they're huge. They have a lot of backing. They one of the leaders in the country doing this. And I think that it's important for everybody to know that although some memory care or assisted livings have completely forbid move-ins, our company, your company, has said we will allow people to move in. We want to be there. We want to help, of course, but with strict screening guidelines. And I think that's important to talk a little bit about that too.
Absolutely. 25 years of experience. We're the pioneers of memory care. And so we know how to do it right. And, that's something that the competition really can't mimic or imitate. 25 years in the business. It's hard to believe you were only 5 years old when we opened, Marcia. But when you're looking at our move-in criteria, we are allowing move-ins under certain condition, and I need to emphasize that. We will never move someone in if we feel we're placing them at risk. We would not do that to someone. However, just because we have a pandemic out there doesn't mean that there aren't people who have needs, and those needs continue. And some of those needs can be life or death, like somebody who elopes, or that you find walking down a very busy jog road in Delray Beach. That can have catastrophic effects. So we do have a strict protocol. If we have a positive COVID case in the building, we will not accept move-ins because we would not put those residents at risk. However, we do feel with proper screening, we can significantly mitigate any risk that would be involved with bringing someone in.
And I think that's great for families to know, because a lot of families are saying, well, I really need to have my loved one go into a memory care, but now's not the time because of the virus, and I'm afraid they're going to get sick, and I'm afraid I won't get to see them, and I'm afraid. But what we're showing now is that dementia doesn't wait for the coronavirus, right? And things are just going to get worse. And we want to tell families how better life can be for not only them, but their loved one by being able to help them during this critical time. And I think the comfort and the information and the education that we're putting out there to the public, to these families, is of utmost importance to relieve those fears that they may have, and that we can actually help them during this crisis when maybe some other places wouldn't be able to help.
Absolutely. Education is key, Marcia. And, we operate on fear. And, I fear every time my teenage child goes out and drives the car. But we have to mitigate risk and understand, determine how much of a risk is it to do a certain activity. And again, we would never put somebody in a profoundly risky situation whatsoever. If that was the case, we would not be doing move-ins in all of our locations. Now, we do have some locations that are in those hot markets, and we're not doing move-ins, and we make that conscious decision. In fact, in some of our locations that didn't even have positive cases, we decided to put them in full PPE, even though that's far exceeding the CDC requirements, but it was because what we felt would be safe for those residents that are living in that community.
Yeah, going above and beyond. I mean, right now that's key. And I think it's great that your company's doing this and stepping up to the plate. So before I have to let you go, I have a question for you. I want to give you an opportunity. If all the staff working in all your buildings were sitting right here with me, and all the families of all the residents that are in the buildings were right here in front of you, what would you like to say to them?
Well, I am inspired by our staff every day. I've gone into the heart of this and have seen our hardworking, dedicated employees making a difference for our residents. And that is just so incredibly inspiring for me. Our employees are the true heroes in this battle against coronavirus. We often look at healthcare workers as heroes, and they are heroes. But we often forget about the nursing home, assisted living care workers, all of the people that put themselves out there to ensure that your mom, your dad, your aunt, your uncle are receiving the best care possible. And they are doing a tremendous job. I'm proud of each and every one of them. And I'm also very thankful and grateful for those families that are putting signs up of appreciation on our properties. Those are so motivating and inspiring for our employees each and every day. So thank you.
Thank you. I know you've been posting and emailing a lot of the special pictures and videos that are coming out of your buildings across the country. They're very positive and very inspiring. And just keep it up, because we love getting those videos and the pictures of showing happy residents and happy staff. And thank you for that. And thank you for being here today and for taking the time to let us know the good news and encouraging news that's coming from a great healthcare company during this terrible pandemic. And I appreciate you and appreciate all that you're doing.
It's my pleasure to be here, sitting next to the best here, Marcia. Thank you.
All right. Well, you take care, and we'll see you soon, I hope.
Thank you. Take care.
We're going to go to commercial break, but we'll be back with more Caregiver Solutions info show, so stay with us.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our national sponsor, Arden Courts Memory Care Communities. Arden Courts has 51 communities across the nation in 11 states, and they're a leader in the field of memory care, helping to take care of people that have Alzheimer's disease or some other related dementia. And Arden Courts is also a resource for you, the family caregiver. They're giving away this book, The 36-Hour Day, absolutely free, just for asking. So if you don't have this book, I highly recommend it. It's an awesome resource with lots of tips and information, challenges to help you to understand what you're going through as a caregiver, what your loved one is going through as a person with memory loss. And all you have to do to get this free book is you can email us at delray@arden-courts.com, or you can even simply call at 888-478-2410. Either way, call or email us today and tell them that you heard about the offer for the free 36-hour day book on the Caregiver Solutions Show, and they'll be sure to get your name and address and make a plan to get the book right to you, to your front door via the Postal Service, because it's still running during the pandemic. So call today, 888-478-2410, or email delray@arden-courts.com. So my other guest today, I'm very excited to have. Her name is Pauline Coram. Pauline is joining me from her home office in the Sarasota area, and she's on the phone right now. We have a beautiful picture of her up on our screen for those of you that are watching on the website. Pauline is the Director of Executive Learning for the Assisted Living Division, which actually includes, but not limited to, the 51 Arden Courts memory care communities. Hi, Pauline. Hello.
Marcia, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Okay, we have you there. Thank you. Thank you for being here today. How are you surviving this pandemic crisis?
We're hanging in there and keeping safe.
Well, that's good. So this way we can connect and we can still get the information out to everybody. And, you know, you have another huge job. We just talked to Mark McBride, VP and General Manager, about some of the things that are happening across the communities that he operates of the 55 properties. And also you have a huge job when it comes to what you do with the executive learning part and implementing new ideas and new programs throughout those communities. So I guess the first thing that I would like to talk to you about is families are upset sometimes when they are close by a community that their loved one lives in, but they can't visit because social distancing prohibits visitors from coming in to see their loved ones. And I know that there are programs set in place throughout the communities to solve this problem. So can you talk a little bit about that?
I would be glad to. And again, thank you for having me. You know, we appreciate the sacrifices that our families are engaged in with working with our communities and adhering to the request of not visiting. This is a really hard situation because we really want folks to be connected. So in the interim, we have come up with virtual visiting, which is a way for our families to connect to their loved ones in our communities, whether it's by phone, Skype, FaceTime, Zoom, a whole bunch of different applications that are out there. And part of this process is asking for our families to give themselves permission to think of a different way of communicating in lieu of the time to be able to see them face to face. So we have offered suggestions to families, and with all of that, we are trying to endeavor a way for them to hear voices and see faces and connect in a meaningful way. For folks that were used to face-to-face visits, those are now challenged with either a telephone or FaceTime or Zoom. And there could be a lot of anxiety on whether or not it's going to be successful. So we have encouraged folks to think of ways that capitalize on interests and hobbies and beliefs and values and incorporating that in the stories that go along with the visits via the technology or the virtual visiting. Giving permission to be able to try it and be surprised by the interaction, because the interaction is the engagement, and what we want to accomplish is knowing that there's a connection. There are two examples that I can share with you. One was a family of a husband and wife who always visited face-to-face. And now with the curtailed visits, the wife, the resident, was now talking to her husband over the phone. And at the conclusion of their visit, she asked him if she was going to be seeing him again on that little square TV thingy in the next couple of days. And so it worked, and it was successful for both of them in a way that was going to be meaningful in this type of time. The other example I will share is with us. Go on, Marcia.
I just wanted to say, you're talking about the technology, and I understand that the company provided iPads to every community so they would have extra technology to accommodate all of these social distancing visits with the residents. And not only do they have the iPads, but I know when I was visiting one of our communities recently, they actually had somewhat of a schedule of the preferences of the families about how often the families would like to be communicated with. And some of them were okay with once every, 2 weeks, and others were, oh, I have to do it every week, please connect me. Others were every few days because that's what they needed. And I was very impressed that the communities, the individual buildings, the staff that were taking the time out of their busy day to provide this connectivity to the families of the residents as often as possible, as often as the families needed to be. And I thought that was just so heartwarming, given the fact that some places that we hear about on the news, people can't even find out if their loved one is alive or not. So I just think that this is just the way to do it, and proud that this is what's happening.
Yep, exactly right. The iPad has been a really good experience, and staff have logs, appointments, time frames, and have really engaged in the process in a positive way.
So I have another question for you. We know that the staff, they're all wearing face masks to be safe when they're giving care to the residents, and we're talking about communication. So my question is, how have the masks maybe impeded communication between the staff and the residents, especially, in our memory care, our Arden Courts memory care communities, where it's very important for staff to use facial expressions a lot when they're communicating with people with memory loss, because they have deficiencies in understanding, and they understand a lot more sometimes with looking at your face, not necessarily what you're saying. How have we been able to communicate effectively, although we're being safe and being cautious and wearing masks?
Yeah, it's a great question. We build on the dementia training that all of our staff go through as it relates to communication and approaches and strategies to have a successful bonding and understanding of each resident. So knowing that person and their background, who the individual is that's living with dementia, is really key in terms of initiating communication. We know that there are 3 different types of communication. You know this, Marcia. There's the verbal, the nonverbal, and the prompts and the cueing. And introducing a mask can be worrisome or provide anxiety. And so we've been training staff throughout this process to recall their approach strategies. Examples of that is, we know that about 7% of communication is verbal and 93% is nonverbal. So that facial expression that you mentioned, body language, approach are really key, especially when you're introducing a mask. We talk about making eye contact and smiling, and when you have a mask, it's hard to smile. But if you do smile behind your mask, it is evident in your eyes. It also shows in your facial expressions. So we reinforce our staff with the ideas of approaching slowly, using the person's name, their preferred name, making eye contact, using a tone of voice that's calming, slowing that down, and be able to use gestures by hands, engaging, saying hi with your hands. Those nonverbals and those external prompts really help to minimize any type of worry that a resident may have by seeing someone with a mask. I'm really proud of the staff in all of the communities that I travel to. They've really integrated those strategies, and the residents have really accommodated to the new normal as we live through that right now.
Yeah, they're doing a great job. But we also have to practice good social distancing. And when you have assisted living, memory care, and there's 55, 60 people in each building under one roof, how can we do activities and continue to keep the residents busy when we're also supposed to be following social distancing? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the social distancing of that 6 feet is really important. And so we've spread out all of our programming to every aspect of our environment, both indoors and outdoors, going to ways that we're counting that we have no more than 10 people in a room, including staff or residents. Think about rearranging rooms that we're taking out chairs. We're using blue painter's tape to be able to kind of indicate the 6 feet distances. Being able to utilize porches and putting up what we call individual pursuits. Activities that would be impressive to a resident reading an instruction to be able to engage on their own. We'll use boxes of materials that, again, are resident-driven, having them in different locations within the houses and the living rooms, alive inside, puzzles, all sorts of activities that we can kind of spread out so that we can keep people moving and not all congregated in one space. We're very fortunate in Florida to be able to have beautiful weather, and so outdoors we've set up different stations as well. Having a picnic table and chairs, but monitoring the 6 feet distance for everybody. Meals have been impacted with that to keep them family style, but spreading them out from the living room to the dining room so that we can, to the best of our ability, to be able to honor that 6 feet distancing. It's a great question.
Well, it's a big job, and sounds like you all have it all figured out and doing a good job at it too. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more from Pauline Coram in just a moment. Please stay with us.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
I'm talking to Pauline Coram. She is the Director of Executive Learning for the Assisted Living Division, ProMedica, including all the Arden Courts memory care. And I'm so happy to have you with us today, Pauline. Thank you for joining the show.
My pleasure.
So we're talking about masks, we're talking about activities, and I want to use the last minutes of the show with you today to help you tell a story about how you've managed to combine masks with ETT, which is one of the programs that I want you to talk about, and social engagement at the same time with activities for the residents and doing something good for the community, all bundled up in one little ball. Tell me about what you call Masks for Mankind.
Yeah, it's really exciting. And it really kind of folds right into the 6-foot distancing, as we were talking about. How is it that we can capture programming in meaningful ways that are important to our residents and also maintain safety? So our individuals that have dementia are vibrant and have lots to live with, even with the dementia, and we know that our individuals want to have purpose and be productive. So our engagement therapy programming is enjoying times together, and it's a fostered program that we look at a person's skills, abilities, and habits and capitalize on those strengths and cohort folks based on their cognitive ability. And so what we're looking at in this trademark program is we look at social skills, functional abilities, and concentration skills and build programs around that. So in this day and time, masks are very popular all of a sudden and really important for life survival. So we determined that we wanted to engage our residents in a project that would be able to give back and provide a service for the public. So Masks for Mankind was designed to be able to work with one of our vendors. Her name is Quilt Mom, and she makes masks and quilts and memory care items for our communities. We reached out to her to see if she would be willing to make some masks for us that would meet the CDC guidelines, and she was totally on board. So we employed the help of Debbie, and then when we started working with the project design, we identified that we should make labels, package, sell, and distribute these masks for people that are staff that want to use the masks in the public, and then also to give back to our community. So all of the proceeds of these masks that we're creating are donated to two different factions. One is the Alzheimer's Association, and then the other donation is to our company Hug Fund, which is employees helping employees when they experience catastrophic events and need a little bit of help. So we launched this project in one of our communities recently, and we had 4 residents which were participating in the program, and half of the program was completely taken up in sanitizing, getting the whole room ready because we had clean masks that we needed to take care of, and we needed to sanitize and prepare our residents to be able to put on gloves and follow the directions that went through with the masks. That part of the program took about 20 minutes just to be able to get ready for it. And the conversations with these residents were so exciting to hear. The programmer was able to describe the mission of what we were trying to do, asked the residents if they were willing to be able to help, and they were all in. And so we assembled based on abilities, and there was the person that was in charge of folding the masks. Another person was in charge of putting the labels on the bag. Another one was able to put the masks into the bag, and then the fourth person was able to store the masks into the basket. At the end of the program, we asked what would residents want to do differently. Was it something they enjoyed? Was it purposeful? Would they be willing to do it again? And every person said that they were so grateful that they could help others, and they hoped that the safety of everybody else would benefit based on their work. So within a 1-hour period of time, we were able to create 50 masks, and within half a day, half of those masks were sold to our own employees who wanted to buy them to support the cause, to thank the residents for all of their hard work, and then also donate to the Alzheimer's Association and the Hug Fund. And this is just one example of how I think life can be extraordinary with our residents who are so willing and engaging, enjoy in the moment, and are able to give back. And so Masks for Mankind is one small example of what can be done in every one of our communities and how we really accept every person as they journey through the disease and be able to partner with them to give them joy, and for us to get so much joy because of what we're able to do as they live their lives with dementia.
Well, that's a wonderful story. Kudos to you all. Up on our screen, we do have a picture of a basket full of those beautiful masks. They are very colorful and bright, and there's a little placard there with it explaining about where they came from and what the proceeds go to. And what a great idea to actually involve the residents and the community, providing help, providing hope to them, enjoyment, because they certainly do love to help. They do. They love to help. Just ask. And I can see the smiles in my mind as you speak of those special residents doing something that they know is going to be for good. And I think that's wonderful, and good luck with all of that. Is there a way for someone to buy the mask, or if they're going to be enough? Can you keep up with the demand? I'm sure there's a big demand for them.
Yeah, we are always able to sell for them. So we are launching it throughout all of our art and courts, and I would be glad to facilitate any of those purchases for you.
Okay, well, they're just beautiful, and knowing that they were made with love and packaged with love is a wonderful thing. And the ETT program, or the ET program that you're using to facilitate this, you do a lot of other similar types of programs with other things. So I wouldn't be surprised what else you might come up with in the days and the weeks ahead, because you're very creative and a very wonderful part of the company to provide this opportunity. So I thank you so much for doing that. And I want to thank you for being here today and sharing all the good news with all of our listeners. And keep up what you're doing, because you're doing a great job. Any parting words you'd like to say to everybody regarding the joy that you're spreading in our communities?
I think it's a privilege to be able to walk among the residents that have lived such impressive lives, and they bring us such joy every day in terms of their gratitude, their joy. It's just an amazing opportunity to be a part of that organization, and knowing that memory care is all we do, but all we get from our residents and our families as we work together. You know, it's always a sense of belonging, and it's always a shared responsibility, and it really is an honor to walk with our residents through this journey.
Well, I want to thank you. It's an honor to have you with us, because you're like a pioneer in this company. How many years are you with the company now?
Are you saying I'm old, Marcia?
Not at all.
About 23 years at this point. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm right behind you. I'm in my 20th year. I'll be finishing that up next February and finishing 20 years. And I couldn't be happier. My sentiments echo yours. It's wonderful to be involved with such a great company, but mostly because of the people that live there and the joy that they do give back to us. So thank you again, Pauline. Stay safe, and we'll be talking to you again in the weeks or months to come. So you take care.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope everybody is safe as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to let everybody know who's joined us today that you can watch repeats, see some archive shows on the YouTube. Just put on YouTube and search Caregiver Solutions Info. You can watch us live stream every Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m. or join us on your iHeartRadio app on your telephone, same time, same place, Tuesdays at 6 o'clock. So thank you for joining us. Be sure to call or email to get your free book, The 36-Hour Day. It's a wonderful book written by Dr. Peter Rabins and Nancy Mace. And if you don't have it, I would highly recommend you getting it. If you know somebody that could benefit from it, call and get it for them. Send us an email, delray@arden-courts.com, or call at 888-478-2410. Thank you for joining us. Stay safe. Be well, and this will be over hopefully soon. And until then, we'll still be here giving you great stories, great information, tips, and help at Caregiver Solutions Info Show. So until then, here's a virtual hug. We're giving virtual hugs, and hug yourself, because it really does feel good, and pat yourself on the back for the good job that you do as caregivers every day. So thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us for this week's Caregiver Solutions with Marcia Teele. Join us next week as Marcia, who has 15 years of Alzheimer's disease and dementia care experience, brings you more needed information to help with the care of your loved one. This show can be seen again on caregiversolutions.info, and questions can be left on the site, which may be used on the program to help others. See you next week for more Caregiver